Welcome back to the show. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of The State of Loud. The State of Loud, 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 State of Loud, the State of Loud. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of A State of Loud.
Yes, sir.
I'm your host, Chris Jefferson, here with the one and only Mr. AJ X Sock'em Boppers over here. My guy, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. Sock'em What is that?
Yes, you don't. Wow.
Oh, that's
No. Did you just say what's a Sock'em Bopper? We're going to Five Below. Next thing you're gonna be like, what's Toys R Us? What's KB Toys?
Nah, I know KB Toys and I know Toys R
Nah,
Us.
it's okay. It's all right.
I used
You
to
don't
steal
have
from
to know
KB
that.
Toys.
That just blew my mind a little bit. I just dated myself.
I don't know if I can get in trouble for this, but I actually used to steal from KB Toys.
Why would you incriminate yourself?
Hot Wheels.
Judge, it was Hot Wheels. KB Toys.
Be like, all right, cool.
He was like, all right, that's fine. That's not high enough. We're not gonna. Don't do it again, sir. Give us $5 and go home.
I ain't gonna say weird.
Oh my God, you're getting weird. But ladies and gentlemen, we do want to welcome you guys to a show. Always, we have amazing guests because we are surrounded by amazing people, and I'm happy, very happy to bring this gentleman to you today. His name is Erroll, better known lovingly by the community as E. Now, he is a man of many hats, but you'll find out that he works in a specialized area when it comes to the fact that he works with Build More Unity. He is the assistant coordinator for Kismet of Kings. He's a specialized mentor with Connected Vine. He's a BA. He is a father. He is an overall community activist fighting for the rights of the people around him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Erroll, better known as E. My brother, how are you doing today?
Peace. AJ, shout out. Thank you for the sound effects.
We gotta add the soundboard.
We're going to have to.
We still gotta add them.
We're going to have to.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
I'm gonna let AJ interview this time.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I'm gonna let AJ start off.
All right, man. So, hey, what's going on, Erroll?
Sit
How you
back
doing,
in the
man?
seat, my guy.
I'm feeling good, man. Like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have this conversation with you
Yes,
guys. How
sir.
you guys doing, man?
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna start off as we always do. You're a man of many hats. I can see that your line of work always aligns with giving back to your community and especially the youth. Especially working with so many organizations. Tell us a little bit about the stuff you have going on right now.
Okay. You summed it up perfectly.
Okay.
might I add, right?
Thank you.
But yeah, for the most part, like you said, I am an assistant coordinator with Kismet of Kings, so I work directly with the youth, the boys there, while serving as a liaison between the community, parents, and all that good stuff. With the Connected Vine, outside of being a specialized mentor, I actually facilitate social emotional learning workshops in several of the high schools here in Jersey City. Right? That is
That's
something
dope.
of itself, right?
Yes,
We'll
sir.
get
Yes,
into
sir.
that. And I recently picked up work as a BA as well. So
Wow.
all of my work is centered with working with youth.
My guy, I very much appreciate the work that you do. Being out in the community, I think we need more men like yourself out here just providing and being a guide to the young men on their path and their journey through life. I see all the work that you do. I know the first time we ever really came cross paths was on 28 Days of Blackness that we filmed with E-Code, Mr. Rashid Chambers. So you're very well known throughout the community. Jersey City.
Yes.
What about Jersey City do you love? What is attracted for you to be here? And why do you choose to do the work that you do here?
Okay. So I guess I got to take it from the top.
You can.
I'm born, right?
You
So I'm
can,
born
you
and
can.
raised. I'm born and raised here in Jersey City.
Okay.
I'm a Midtown baby. Right?
Okay.
I have my family's very well known here.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a bishop here prior to passing, and he was a housing manager for Jersey City Housing Authority for about 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So his brother was in the Olympics in the 60s, and he went on to be assemblyman. The track at Lincoln Park is actually named for him. Yeah, man. So I have, and then I can go on and on and on, right? But with being from Jersey City and coming from a family who's well known, well loved, and had a love for the people, I early on developed a love for like the people here in Jersey City, the sense of community, right? Because it's a city, right? We're right across from the city, but we're small enough to where everybody knows everybody, or somebody that knows everybody, right? So just a sense of community, I think, and always feeling that and wanting to be a part of that, and then wanting to create that when I didn't see or feel that. Right. So yeah, man.
So it sounds like you said, you have a deep rooted love for this city.
Yeah.
And it really brings into the work that you do here.
For sure.
So I'm gonna have to ask, like, doing the work you do, working with the youth, what are some of the trends that you're seeing that many people may not be aware of?
There's definitely it seems to be an uptick with the mental health challenges with our youth. I think that children are one of the least protected classes in the world, right? Because I feel although we're getting away from that, children are to be seen and not heard. That really hasn't changed in our conduct. Right, i.e., take children being in these relationships. Right, we tend to minimize, like, oh, you'll this is your first experience with love. You'll grow up, you'll see that wasn't even the one for you. While we doubt that most of our first heartbreaks, which shape the way in which we love or don't love now, happened when we were young. So you can take that and apply that to any experience of the youth. But to answer your question directly, it's definitely the mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, struggles with contemplating unaliving themselves, things like that.
Wow.
Those things tend to be on the rise.
It's such an intense subject, but yet one we don't really address, because a lot of the subjects in which you just brought up are kind of taboo in our society. Like we don't want to talk about what a healthy relationship looks like. We don't want to talk about your first sexual experience with someone. We don't want to talk about what it means to have feelings for someone more than just my friend, right?
Actually talk about it.
And have a deep conversation. So when you're in that environment, what is the type of guidance that you provide for the youth, and what are ways you think other people, other ways, the guidance other people can give their youth as well?
Absolutely. The number one thing is vulnerability, right? When I build my connections, or when I seek to build a rapport or connection with the youth, I lead from my experience and empathy, right? Is there anything relatable from my background based on what they're explaining to me that they're facing right now? Because children are very observant, so if you're not genuine, if they feel like you're BSing, it's like, we see you. Yeah. We tend not to give them, that sort of credit for being keen observers, but that's what they're doing for the first couple of years of their life. They're just watching, they're learning, right? I think
super honest too.
Super honest. Hey, your breast stinks. Right? Why does that dude look like that? Right. Why does he look like that? Right. You're ugly. Right. Right.
They don't care,
right? So,
oh my God.
So definitely, my encouragement, my guidance to anyone who's seeking to work with you or is currently working with youth is lead from vulnerability, lead from your experience. Right? Because oftentimes when we speak to children and youth, it's from a place of authority and not from a place wherein they can relate, right? It's do as I say, not as I do. But someone is more likely to trust you if you can say, you know what, that wasn't the right thing, but I did that too before. Here's why I did it. So maybe I can understand why you did it. Here's how we can get out of it. Here's how I got out of it. This may not work for you, but I understand.
Wow. So it kind of, it boils down, like you said, vulnerability.
Yeah.
Being empathetic and understanding their place in the situation. And even if you can't do that, be understanding that what they're doing is based upon their interactions and understanding and what they see. And kind of just be, I don't want to say be a friend, but be supportive for sure. What that journey may look like. Absolutely. So if you can just move your mic up a little bit, not just tilt it.
Like that?
Yeah, a little more. Perfect. All right.
Perfect.
And I mean, you make a very good point, because it makes it seem like it's so simple to provide guidance to a youth. Listen, share a situation to show a sense of understanding, and then provide a space for them to make a mistake, or at least try something out. Right? It might turn out good. It may not be a mistake. Right?
Right.
Where do you see most people falling short when it comes to that approach?
Listening. We are not good listeners. I think, and when we do, we listen to respond. I think that when we engage, not just problems with the youth, I feel like when we engage anyone's problems, we're going in sort of with solutions as if, oh, this is just your issue. All you have to do is this, right? Which I think it really, by not listening, we miss the opportunity to really connect. To show someone, hey, I'm not an authority in this, but I'm willing to struggle with you if you're struggling in this. Right. And that's where connection is built. It's from the fact that we share a struggle. Right. And ultimately, we can do the work to improve together. So we don't listen to children. That's really, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
But they have to trust you.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel that I can trust you if you listen to me.
Wow.
That's simple. It's really simple.
It sounds simple, but I feel like, I mean, as an adult, I guess you could call myself an adult and an older person.
I feel the same.
Working with a youth, I don't think I'm old, but an older person than the youth I work with. I don't think we realize how hard it is to actually slow down, listen, and pay attention to youth, because there's almost something in you that was like, nope, let me just fix this real quick.
Right.
So that way we can avoid this whole conversation, and yet we steal that chance for them to learn for themselves and to kind of gather all the pieces they need to draw their own conclusion.
Yeah.
Where most of us, usually if we learned, we were older, so there's no one there to pick up the pieces for you. We just had to go through it the hard way. Where do you think most adults are just like, where do you think that stems from? Do you think they're just not aware of that fact, or like, is it just plain hard to listen to them, no patience? Where do you think that it kind of, the shortcoming starts?
My honest belief on that is that when you fail to listen to someone, right, and when you come in with that preconceived notion of what's going on, you deny them the uniqueness of their personhood. Right? So what often happens is we project our experiences onto them rather than connecting to a similar experience. We say, oh, you're going through this. Here's what you should do. And maybe that worked for your situation, but this is a new age. This is a new generation. I don't know if you guys get to speak to any teenagers.
Yeah.
They talk about, it's similar topics. They have similar struggles, but players are different now.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
The rules are a lot different.
Way
now,
different.
right? So I think that's what happens a lot is that adults project, right? And then they don't leave room for them to critically think.
Ooh. So it's more or less like we're trying to, like you said, we project. So it's almost like hearing your struggle triggers the emotions I felt in my struggle.
Exactly.
And it's almost as if I now get a second chance at this. Let's fix it right the first time instead of reliving it. When in reality, their trauma is not yours to live, nor is it yours to fix.
That's a great point.
It's more or less like, hey, I learned this the hard way. I can help guide you. Maybe we can alleviate some of this pain. But in a way, some of the pain's needed, right? Like there's that saying of like, everyone's told that don't touch the stove. It's hot. But how many people actually grew up and never touched it?
Yeah.
Like it is. That's not true. I don't know one person that was like, you know what? My dad said the stove was hot. I never touched it in my life.
It makes
like,
you want to touch it more when someone tells you not to.
Oh yeah, everything. Let's tell someone they can't do something. What's your first thing you're gonna do? Oh, why? Oh God, I want to try this. I'm curious.
For sure.
And we often project in that way.
Hey,
man.
that's why I'm here.
Because I told you not to be.
No, not you.
No, I'm joking, man. But I think, I mean, you make a huge point on that. The projection piece. I see that a lot when it comes to this work of working with the youth and social services. It may be a very unpopular opinion, but it's those who look to help others are often ones who suffered from pain themselves. And it may not like to be heard, but I think in a way we're all, some of us, not all, I don't want to like putting people in categories. Some of us are actually trying to heal ourselves through healing others. Could be a good thing, good motivator, but it can also be dangerous because, like you said, I'm not projecting myself onto you. I may take an added, what's the word I'm looking for? I may take an added attachment to your situation, do more because it triggers something in me. Whereas if it wasn't, I may just still hold that healthy boundary. And I use that to go into the leeway where you seem extremely knowledgeable about a lot of this work. And I understand you are a BA. You do have a lot of time in the community. With the level of understanding that you have, I'm super curious. I don't believe this just came from you picked up a book one day and you were interested.
No.
I'm going to go back to the question of being so knowledgeable about what you do, what you enjoy doing, and having your purpose here. Where did it all start? Like, what was the event, the day, the happening, the thought that you were like, okay, like this is the beginning of this new journey?
Oh man. Honestly, childhood trauma. Right? Childhood trauma. Right? Enduring many of the things that the youth that we work with have endured. Right? So a lot of this knowledge comes from firsthand experience.
Okay.
Right? And although it's a place of pain, I'm happy to say it's a source of healing and direction because I'm able to pull from experience. To whereas other people may come in and try to live vicariously, like, hey, I made that mistake. Because that's what you're doing. You're trying to live vicariously. I didn't do that, right? I did this. You should do that.
Wow.
So we don't see it that way,
Wow.
but that's what you're doing, right? Maybe if you decide not to date this person and go, this person is actually your husband. No, that was your story. Like,
Wow.
So yeah.
Geez, that's a huge.
Yeah.
You're making like to see and hear your observation of different people's approach makes a lot of sense, right? Because when you work with therapists, you work with any clinician, you work with people in youth, BA, any case, your experience is going to dictate how you view everything.
For sure.
I do want to go deeper into that because, like, we do have people that work within this field that maybe haven't experienced the things in which their clients and the youth they work with have been exposed to. So like you said, you are kind of living vicariously like, oh, that is bad, but maybe you should try this instead. And it just doesn't hit home because of the nuance of not understanding that life. For sure. And you said your journey started through just childhood trauma and wanting it to be different. When you got started on that path, what did it look like? Like, what did you do? Where did you start to just kind of learn and start growing from this?
For sure. So I got involved with community work in college with a organization known as the Royal Men Foundation. Duquan Sweeney, great photographer from Jersey City. He was heading up that organization. So I was about 21 years old, right? And I was surrounded by men who are maybe twice my age, married, established in their careers, right? And we would meet every Wednesday, right? And they would speak about their experiences, right? As men, right? The societal expectations that come along with being a man, as a father as well, and a husband. But they spoke about not being able to fully express what had occurred with them in their childhood and how that impacted the way they raise their children, the way they interact with the community, and even the way they're able to love their spouses, right? So their advice to me was to essentially to heal, right? To focus on those things in my childhood that are shaping the way I think about the world and furthermore interacting with the world, right? So it really started there. As I went through school and I became a father myself, right? Because I had my son my junior year in college, right? Having to reparent myself in preparation to become a father really is what kicked off a lot of the healing I've been able to accomplish. And I'm still in the healing process. I do believe that we're never fully healed, but we're always in a state of perpetual healing, right? Yep. But I was happy because my son coming along, I made the conscious decision, okay, I am hurt by X, Y, and Z. And here's how I live my life because of being hurt in that way. What I will not do is pass this along, nor pass these negative coping mechanisms along to my son. So I have to find a way to heal this. So everything I struggle with, I got in community with other people who struggle with that thing. Some of which were my peers, some of which were maybe 10, 20, 30 years my senior. Because if you're further along your healing journey, okay, what worked for you? Let me try that. No, that didn't work. Let me try another approach. Yep. So honestly, community. I'd say community in that journey of just like self-discovery and wanting to heal, acknowledging the pain rather than continuing to cope.
Yes.
Right?
That is a super powerful statement. Wanting to heal. Not just acknowledging wanting to cope.
Right.
Oh man, you're opening up a whole book of worms in my mind of questions because it's such a It's such a powerful thing when you want to heal, because for the longest time, especially working with youth, we try to understand what is the difference between a youth that like the program sticks with and the ones that don't. And I think you made a great point of the difference between wanting to heal and wanting to cope. The youth these days, like you said, it is different. They have an abundance of coping mechanisms that we didn't have, right? We didn't have cell phones with YouTube and Netflix. You couldn't watch a movie. You couldn't watch a movie on your phone. That was like, you could take. I remember my first flip phone had a camera. That was it. A camera. You could text. You could play some games. You had dope ringtones. If you went to the mall, you can get one of those antennas that lit up when you got a call. Like that was our cell phone. That was our entertainment. But you had to be present when it came to doing things. Now you can be completely isolated and detached from your life. And it'll allow you you can cope literally your whole life, not knowing that there's more for you. There's maybe better than what your situation lasts for you. And like, I'm glad you make the point of going to a community. Not a lot of people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
When you started going to the group, like how did you find this group? How did you get involved? And what was it like when your first involvement with them?
Okay. So my social studies teacher, he's a principal at Lincoln High School now, Chris Guest.
Oh, Mr. Chris Gaston. Big
Right?
shout out to Mr. Chris Gaston. Shout out.
Yeah. Shout out, man. He posted something about the organization on Facebook. And Rashid, who was my cousin, he also was a part of it. He was also a part of this group. So he invited me out one day, and I was just like, all right, cool, let me check it out. And I went, and it was just a bunch of guys in the circle. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Right? I'm like, you guys got khakis? What is this? You eating a banana over there? This
This is weird.
So,
What initiation is this?
Yeah, man. But then I just heard these guys talking about the community, and then the conversation just got really, really deep. Right? Because I heard men speaking in a way I've never heard before. I heard men speaking about their pain. Right, not being tough, not saying suck it up, right? And the vulnerability, which is a word I keep finding myself coming back to, is what made me stick around, right? Because I saw myself in what they were expressing, and I also saw what I could be. Again, I was surrounded by men who were, depending on your version of successful, right? Successful fathers, successful husbands, successful men in whatever career path, and they had a similar upbringing to what I had. They endured some of the same stuff. They're from the same street, same neighborhood, same block. So that made healing and a good life that much more attainable in my mind. Because I saw men who were next to me, who looked like me, who came from what I came from, be successful and find peace amidst all of the chaos of their life.
Wow. So you had immediate representation.
For sure.
So it became that much more obtainable to you. You didn't have to idolize someone on TV or idolize someone from a book, someone you never saw before, met before. You couldn't reach out and touch them or have a conversation. Yeah. These are people, like you said, from an area you came from, look like you, talk like you, walk like you, achieving things that maybe up until that point you may not have known were attainable.
Yeah.
And it shows the importance of representation in this work. Because as a BA, you probably know there are not many black male clinicians, BAs, therapists, whatever level you may be working at. But yet in certain areas, men of color are the predominant like persons of need for a lot of this work.
Absolutely.
And I think it just, I mean, kudos to them for putting that group together, especially at that time, because I mean, it definitely did some amazing work.
Shout out, guys.
And it even inspires me to start doing something more like that. I mean, it's things like that got me started mentoring. I grew up with a very similar happening. I think when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, they had started like the boys club at the school. We met after school one day a week, and they would talk to us about life things. And I'll never forget this one talk. It was my teacher, Mr. Daniels. I think he was my math teacher. Light-skinned black dude, tall. He looked like he could be like in one of those R&B groups in the 90s. Smooth cat, super smooth cat. Dress fly, like classy dude. And he said something to me I never forgot. He said to me, y'all may make fun of me because I drive to school in a hoopty, but y'all have no clue what my house looks like when I go home. And when I'm younger, I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm like, why is that relevant? And as I got older, I'm like, oh, he has equity. He has something that's growing wealth throughout his family. And if he has to sacrifice having a flashy car to get him where he needs to be, he's building for his future. Seventh grade year old me was just like, yeah, I'm gonna get me a house. I don't care if I got a hoopty. And I'm just like, what am I saying? Like, but it finally clicked when I got older. So man, I definitely appreciate groups like that. And I think things like that need to be said because the support in which we need isn't as complicated as we may think.
For sure.
It literally can be something as simple as a group coming together to talk, to speak, and to grow. So like as you venture out of that group, you are surrounded by these men. You're moving through on your journey. What were some other avenues that you embraced upon your journey that you did more for yourself outside of the group?
Oh, for certain. Spirituality. Right. Yeah. I'm a devout Christian. So I found a lot of healing, in my practice of my faith, and in the faith community at large. Right. Just concepts of healing, forgiveness, redemption, and all of those great things. Really, I just kept those principles. Not to mention, again, my grandfather was a bishop. So I was raised in a house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A very Christian house.
Yes,
very
sir.
Christian. You know, we used to say, praise the Lord, and answering the phone, and get in trouble if you didn't. I was in church on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Twice on Sunday.
Twice on Sunday.
I'm like, all right, it's nighttime now. Right? Yeah, so definitely my faith. Right? Reading. I do believe that readers are leaders.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right.
Say it again.
Yeah, readers are leaders. Y'all
Most definitely.
Keep reading those books, kids.
keep reading. I found a lot of great healing practices in reading as well. And in physical fitness, like I bought my own bike when I was like, fun fact, I learned to ride a bike at 17,
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Fun
Riding a bike.
Yeah, man, I was like 6 feet.
I know some people that can't ride a bike now, man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, look,
I ain't gonna say
man.
nothing.
So, yeah, I bought a bike, and I used to go for rides in Liberty State Park every day after work. I rode all the way up until like Edgewater one time.
Oh, wow.
I still do that.
Super
Past, I
therapeutic.
go past
Yeah.
the George Washington Bridge into New York, into the city, across the bridge.
Awesome. I'd like to take that ride.
You didn't even know that, huh? You didn't even know that.
He's
You
like,
didn't even know that.
it's like,
Bro, like I used to train triathlons. I used to ride from the Heights to Bayonne. Bro, we're going on bike ride.
I got
We're going on
let's do
I
it.
got
Let's
the
set
fixie
it
in
up.
the
Let's
crib
set
right
it up.
now.
Seriously, I'll get I had, one of those I have not ridden my bike since my accident.
Yo, let's do it. Let's get the guys. We just go.
I need
for
to
a
get
ride.
back on it. Let's go.
I need
Let's
to
get
fix my
back
bike
on
though
it.
too, though.
For sure.
It's good though. It's still in the basement. You know what I'm saying?
Mine's too.
Yo,
I'll put in the truck today. But no, I mean that you made a great point that a lot of the things that supported your healing journey didn't really cost you a lot of money. Yeah. Were easily accessible in the world around you.
Yeah,
And something that all of us can access.
for sure.
You, in a sense, you were creating your own support system around you.
Yeah.
And not once have you mentioned a TV show or social media or any activity that kind of takes your mind outside of your being. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with any of those things, man. I grew up, I was a huge video game fan. I don't have the time now, but they look awesome. But there is something
Crazy.
to be said about physically doing the work, the activity that you may fantasize or read about or see that can change your life a little bit. That's like you're saying, riding the bike places and going on all those different rides
Yeah.
to be able to take yourself someplace under your own power is a freeing experience.
Absolutely.
Very freeing experience. Now, with doing all of the work that you did upon yourself, at what point did that lead you into the space of like, okay, this is really helped me. I'm really in a good place. Like, I want to help others.
That's a good question, right?
Thank you.
It's like, hey, when did you decide to like start helping people? Honestly, so it started actually when I was a lot younger, before I actually embarked on my healing journey, right? One thing I learned from watching my grandfather was that he was admired, he was respected, but I think most importantly, he was loved. And he lived by the philosophy of loving, right? And I see that of all the things that he did for people, they always came from a place of love. And that's why people loved him and respected him, right? So of all the things that I knew I could be growing up, I wanted to be loved, right? And I know the key, or I've learned early on that the key to being loved was to love, right? So coming into, like you said, my healing journey, I remember that. I'm like, okay, well, what do I feel most fulfilled doing? Right. And it's like, oh, loving people, helping people heal, like helping people to meet their basic needs. Like if they had, I worked in so many different avenues, bro.
Yeah.
But like looking back, they always centered on helping people. My first job, official job, was I was a family worker in a preschool.
Wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah, man. And from there, I worked for the community food bank. And then I was an educational coordinator. And then I was an employment specialist at a reentry corporation. Right. But all of my work really centered on healing or educating, helping people to come into who they're destined to be as authentically as possible. Right. So that's when I had to be about 5 when I decided. I was like, yeah, I want to be that guy.
Jeez.
I want to help people.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow. And
sure.
I always need to take a moment to let it digest, because so much of the insight in which you give to your journey, and again, one reason I always love doing this is because it kind of helps me click into things. And one thing that stood out, like you said, is like you had an example again in front of you of what you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Showing it. And the beauty of it to me was it wasn't some like superstar basketball player. You didn't say I wanted to be the richest man out here. I wanted to be a CEO. You said I wanted to be loved. That to me is such an undervalued trait of life. And people don't realize if you can align your purpose with that, there's no telling how far you can go in this world.
Yeah, man.
Right? Because I think
100%.
what is it? I forgot monks. I forgot which monks they are, but they go on this journey where they have to cross this country or area. I think it's in Europe, with nothing, no money, no nothing, and they just set them out and they're like, "Here's your ticket to get to there. You need to make your way back." And they're like, "Well, how am I gonna do this?" Well, you have to have faith and believe that being present, loving those around you, and helping how you can will get you back here. And literally everyone that does it always succeeds.
Wow.
And to me, reading that, I read that in a book, Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty. Big shout out. Send me a signed copy of it, whatever. But I already bought it, so it doesn't matter. But in reading that, it shows that just wanting to be loved, sharing love, the world will provide you everything you need.
Absolutely.
And to see that being your main purpose and the different jobs you've had and the avenues of people you probably work with, it's probably what carries you through to the next step of everything you do. So it's like, I guess I would say, doing all the work you currently do now and everything you learn, where would you like to go in your pathway? Where do you see yourself being? What is like a grand position, job, organization, thing that you'd love to create?
That's you know what? Full transparency, I'm still crafting that out, right? Because I know that of anything that I can do, I always want to be in the position of service. Right? So I think oftentimes the way in which our society and economic system is set up, the higher you aspire, the more disconnected you get from reality and from people. Right? Yeah. So I don't think what I would want to do exists. Right? But wherever there's a gap, there's room for innovation. I do believe it just means I just have to chart that out. Right? Whether it's in the nonprofit world, which is like, you got all the bureaucratic red tape. And then you got to start your way from the bottom with funding and stuff, or I don't think I'll ever do corporate again, right? Because it's disconnected. It's
completely
selfish ambition, right?
That's another.
Yeah, man. And it's just like, I just want to be connected to the people. And all of my provision comes from loving and helping people, man. I want for nothing, So Chris, to answer that question, man, I'm charting that out when I find out, though.
Oh, let me know, bro. Let me know. But I think that's
Yeah, man.
I think there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
Like because there's nothing wrong with knowing either, but
For sure.
not knowing usually because like the path in which you're set to walk hasn't been created yet. And like you said, like you don't know what is out there and maybe it hasn't been created yet. And then that's honest to God truth.
For sure.
Like I couldn't sit here and tell you and say what it is. I could make something up and be like, oh, he'll be the head of the, but even though I don't think that's right, right? I can't see that. I mean, I think I can see, but I can't see that far in the future, right?
For sure.
So it's like what you feel is right will guide you to where you need to be. And trusting in that feeling is the most freeing and beautiful thing. And it is something that is hard to attain when you are working in the corporate world because there's usually a line of hierarchy, right? You're coming at this position, you work this long, you achieve these goals, you can get to this position. 9 times out of 10, it means more responsibility, more pay, right? And you're right. The more wealth you attain, the more disconnected you are from people. Because, and ironically enough, right, as you get more money, the luxury in which you pay for is to be disconnected. It's kind of wild, right? Because you kind of see where I'm going with this.
Think about brands, and not to take this from you too much, right?
Please.
But how many brands, right? The pride of their product is exclusivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You appeal to a person's pride. You're better than someone because they can't get this thing.
Yeah.
Right? They can't go here. They can't take this trip. They can't drive this, but you can. Right? So the difference between me and you is that I have this thing. Right?
And
it's
that's
nothing inherently different.
That's the luxury approach, right?
Yeah.
Like wealth only matters if you can attain something that people that don't have wealth can't, right?
For sure.
Otherwise, you'd have a lot of stuff that you could buy the same thing everyone else would.
For sure.
Which would be wild, right? Like, can you imagine there's like billionaires and you're online at like McDonald's and you're like, hey, that's Jeff Bezos. What are you getting today? He's like, a Big Mac. Okay, nice. See you later, boss. Like,
Yeah, right.
You'd be like,
Right,
why
right,
do I
right.
want to be rich? I don't need to buy more McDonald's. Like,
Right.
I'm good where I'm at, right? We're not even going to
sure.
get into that, how like a double cheeseburger, fries, and drink was $2.99 at one point. Now it's like 10. We're going to leave that alone, Mr.
Listen,
Inflation. But I've often argued wealth. We're going to leave the McDonald's alone. I've often argued wealth is only desirable because of the things in which you can obtain with it.
For sure.
If all of it was obtainable, would we care about how much money we made? Right? Would it be more focused on the experiences and more so less the material things you can acquire? But I think that's the difficult road, right? Because the experience of having a thing, right? Like you may have a Honda Civic and that's fire and it gets you where you need to go, but a Porsche TRS is going to be a different experience.
For sure.
We know that the happiness in material things is always fleeting. It's gone. It will become your normal thing at one point, right?
Sure.
But I think we chase it. We chase it for an interesting reason. I do want to go back to that one point though. That what you get with wealth is more distance between you and what reality is. Yeah. In saying that and looking at the system we live in, right?
Yeah.
You turn the news, you're going to see poverty. You're going to see crime. I was like, how is this news? It's just robbing,
The blues for
stealing, cheating, killing is kind of negative. Like none of it's positive. And then like if you have to have an area that says good news of the day, what is the rest of the news, right? So
right.
when you can pay to literally disconnect from that, in a sense, you're paying for that peace. And then we're making peace a luxury. And I don't think necessarily because it has to be that way. I think it's because it's a result of the system we've created.
For sure.
Right? Like when you don't allow an equal opportunity for jobs, an equal opportunity education, an equal opportunity for income, and you create that disparity, there's going to be imbalance. What value do I have having all of this? Well, I get to be within the peaceful zone of the balance.
Yeah, man.
I'm not chasing anything. I'm not wanting for anything. I know I can go in my fridge and I have food. There's no crime because to get all the way out here is expensive and you ain't coming to where I live. And you may be fearful of what's out here because you're not from here.
Yeah, man.
And it's almost as if we are creating an environment like What they say, the prison is in the mind. Like, you stay within it, because if you don't have someone like you had showing you something better is for you, you don't know it's obtainable. You can't see it. You don't have, and I guess you could say, if you don't have a treasure map leading you to your treasure, you're gonna be lost. You'll be digging in sand for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And then your friends will just be out here like, you digging too? Yeah. Well, this is all we do is dig, hoping to find something.
For sure.
And that's a wild thing to think, that our society is literally you're chasing
Figure it out.
money
Yeah.
to get the map to a better place, to get away from everyone digging on the shores.
Yeah, man. It's I don't think, right, there's anything inherently immoral or evil about wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that,
Yeah.
right? But in your current economic system, right, and in the world, in the way in which it's set up, all the ways in which the ridiculous amounts of wealth have been obtained have been through exploitation and greed, right? So as it stands now, the more money you make, the higher, the more probability that that money has been funneled through blood in some way. There's suffering connected to it,
Yeah.
right?
Someone has a sacrifice.
Someone can't find a babysitter, right? Someone doesn't have proper health insurance to be here, right? Someone got injured on the job. It's the job's fault because they knew the machinery was faulty, but they decided not to repair it because it would cost more, right? So when profit is your main focus, I do believe that principles tend to go out the window, right? That's the reality. Unless you can come up with an example of which that hasn't been.
I mean,
right?
It would, I don't think right now I can, but what I like to believe is that true innovation and creativity will eventually overcome the desire for greed and obtaining it by skimming the bottom line or the top line, whatever, because we now live in a society of constant consumption, right? John Fuentes said it on one of our shows where right now companies are looking to put out as much content as quickly as they can to keep your eyes on here and getting something new. Yeah. The problem with that is you're not allowing time for innovation, change, and creativity. I kind of believe that if you can keep yourself in alignment of where you're supposed to be patient, go slow, learn, build, and create, you're going to be able to acquire as much wealth as you may need, not because you're charging so much for your item, but because it's going to be worth something that the masses are going to want it. And I can't think of anything that we've had in the last 10 years that truly took off in a mass appeal simply because they're new and innovative. I mean, Tesla did a pretty good job with that so far. They're probably one of the only companies doing it, trying to push innovation first. I don't know they're any working, so I can't say how logical it is or how ethical, but I haven't seen anything that has been that way, at least on a mass scale. But on a smaller scale, I've seen plenty. Artists, during COVID, people were home, it gave exposure to bedroom artists or household artists to be doing things. I know a gentleman I filmed named, it begins with an A. I had a lot of A's in my life, so that's why I'm like,
Take your time, man.
oh my God. He's in Brooklyn. But I'm gonna tag him in this, and I'm so sorry I'm not remembering your name right now. I want to say it's Arbery or RV or Adrian. Adrian. It's Adrian. Thank you, because I got an Aubrey and an Audrey. I got all
Plus 10 for the memory.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, man. I know he was doing well for himself, and he was working at a marketing agency. And then all of a sudden, he blew up through social media, and he was doing stuff. He did some work for Smithsonian Channel. That's how I started filming him. He did some work for BET. He just had a fundraiser where him and a few other artists did custom artwork on Air Force Ones. He's doing amazing art and still developing himself as an artist. When I see things like that, I'm like, he obtained success because he stayed true to his craft and what he did. So it is possible, but it takes a lot of patience.
For sure.
Time, hard work, dedication. Being the environment we live in now, do you see it as, I don't know what you want to ask. I'll put it this way. Do you think people are willing to put in that much time, effort, energy, and work and be patient to obtain the success that they're looking to have?
I do. I think when you have to decide between your dream and rent, I think that's demoralizing, right? For the amounts of wealth that exist and the ways in which they're obtained, you have to, it seems as though we're put in a position to where it's like, okay, I can pursue this thing, but at some point I have to be immoral, right? I may have to compromise my personal principles and integrity. I may have to water down my art, right? So that it can become a commodity, right? So I absolutely believe that there are people who are absolutely willing to put in the time and the effort, right? Does life and society allow them to?
That's
right?
a good question.
Because what we do is take being poor, for example, right? We see how I wouldn't say I use we loosely.
Yeah.
You see how morality is tied to wealth, as in, okay, if you've obtained this amount of wealth, there has to be something special about you that isn't special about me. Well, maybe it might be that like your fourth granddad owned slaves and kind of like pass that money down.
He had a lot of money for you, and you could add a safety net.
Right. And like I said before, maybe someone isn't being paid adequately, right? Maybe there's a corner being cut. And under capitalism, we know that to be a truth, right? This is something we have to speculate.
Yes, sir.
So again, I do believe there's no shortage of people who are willing, who have that grit, who have that resilience, who have just the belief in themselves and what they want to do apart from wanting to profit from it. I just think that circumstance just doesn't allow them to, and that there are barriers that are intentionally created.
I mean, that makes sense. We do see it because the rat race, as we call it, has many obstacles in front of you to keep you reaching the ultimate goal. As someone that took the leap to go after my dreams, my goals myself, there were a few times in my life where if I didn't have the support of my family, I would probably be homeless. I mean, and it's happened at least twice. Every time I took the leap, there were times I was like, I don't know how much worse this could get, but I'm not going to stop. So we're going to keep going. And I'll never forget it, man. Even when I was DJing, I remember my mom paid I was living in her house rent-free, not paying for food, and she paid my phone bill. She's like, the only thing I'm not paying is your car. You got to make enough money to pay your car insurance and your car note. And I think at that time, combined both was like $350. So I was like, if I can make $350.
What a time.
Right?
What a time.
If I can make $350 a month, I will have a car to get me around. I will be fine. And literally, I did. I got up, I did finishing work, painting work, worked for my buddy's company. And it helped me still go after and go after music. And even when I got into the railroad and I was like, 20 months of school is going to be crazy. It's the hardest thing I have to do in my life. She supported me. Even my girl supported me when I built my media company, my nonprofit. Like, she was always checking in. We good? You good? You good? You need anything? Having that support, I realize is a huge luxury not everyone has. And I guess what really concerns me about that is how many great ideas go undeveloped because there's no safety net. Like the greatness of human beings, right? Like we sit here and there's still scientists that go, don't know how the pyramids are made. We're going to go with aliens. And you're like, what happens if you had a lifetime? I'm just saying. That's our best guess at this point.
Man.
We can't fathom how they put this together, and we don't see a cell phone. We don't see anything, and they triangulating it with the planets and the stars and the measurement and the circumference of the Earth, and every pyramid is aligned with the cell. Like we don't see that they had spaceships, flight, or anything we have, and we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, right.
Gotta be aliens at this point, right? And but to me, I'm sitting here like, imagine if you had a lifetime to learn, to grow, to be fascinated, and to have the world around you develop and enrich that curiosity, right? You look at artists like Beethoven and Mozart, and they go, "Oh, they were child prodigies," and and you say to yourself, "Well, what was the environment they were in?"
Right.
They didn't have to worry about money. They didn't have to worry about food, housing. They were good.
Yeah.
And there was no social media, no television, no distractions. I mean, back then it was the simplest things we had, but they could spend all their free time working on their craft.
For sure.
How great could people be if the basic necessities were not worried about, were taken care of? You could wake up every day and go, well, time to go make this art. Here we go. Like,
sure.
What could you create in the span of 5 years, 10 years, 20, a lifetime? Can you imagine you grow up, you're a kid, your whole life, your parents are just introducing you things, putting stuff in front of you to literally see what sticks. And then one day they're like, oh, he's latched on to that. He's played with that every day for 5 days straight. Get more of that in here. That's his thing. Get an instructor, get a teacher, put him in a community with other kids that are in it, let them evolve. I couldn't fathom the advancements our society would have with that level of enrichment into any type of knowledge that people are trying to gain.
Absolutely. Chris, on the other side of that token, now think about the fact that there's a child that has that much energy, raw potential, but they have to worry about their basic necessity. So how can I aspire to become anything when my lights are off? I can't see this sketch that I'm doing right now. Right? I can't afford a keyboard, but I know if I had one, I'd probably play really well.
Ooh, it's over.
Right? Again, you mentioned having a safety net, which I had by virtue of the men I was in community with, right? To bring it back to youth, I aspired to be that one person, right? Because you don't necessarily have to be related to them, right? Or do anything like super fantastic, right? Just to care about where they're going. Right? The likelihood of a child being successful drastically increases when they come into contact with one adult they can trust. Right? So I aspire to be that because I understand that not everyone has basic necessity, right? I do believe that people have dreams. How? I talk to people, right? I talk to children. Ask a child, ask a 10-year-old, what do you want to be? It's going to be the most astronomical, fantastic thing. And even if they're not going to be that, they believe in themselves that they can, right? They haven't learned from the world yet that, like you can't be that, or you're going to have obstacles because of the color of your skin, or because you're a woman, or because you come from a certain place, right? They just have that raw, untapped potential. And with time and experience and exposure, they can channel that in a direction and become Beethoven or Mozart or anything like that, right? But if we don't have the belief, if we don't provide the protection for them and the skills to get through the obstacles that they currently faced, they give up on that potential. All right?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're making me think. You're making me think so much right now because being in this line of work or working with youth, it makes me curious as to what systems we could put into place or essentially replace what we have now that could allow some of that to happen. So, I mean, I guess that's going to be my question to you is if you could build or change something about the system we have when it comes to the children's circle of care or how we develop our youth, what would you like to see in place?
Please. That's a great question. You ask great questions.
Thank you.
You ask great questions. I love it.
Off the top.
Honestly, it would be, I guess, incorporating children more into the process of the development, right? And not statistics, right? By virtue of, hey, what do you need? What do you feel like you need? What is your experience, right? How do you want me to care for you? How do you feel most loved? How do you feel most supported, right? I think you have clinicians. We have people who study these things, right? We have people who were children at a point, right? That's an example as well. But I do believe that we're wired to survive. And if we're not always in fight or flight, we can thrive a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Right? We can create, we can grow, we can inspire to be more than what we may be right now. So just involving youth more in the process of creating the systems that we're building to support them. Right? And not just like from a statistical standpoint, but from the, hey, what do you need? What hurt you? What do you felt like could have been different in that situation to where you wouldn't have been hurt? How do you think you can avoid being hurt next time?
That easy.
Right.
Just ask.
It's principles. It really comes down to principles. And I'm sure there's nuance. Not everyone's situation is the same.
Yeah.
But what's consistent, like you said, you used the words trends earlier in this interview. What's consistent is our view of youth, right? We typically engage children with, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
You don't have enough life experience.
Yep.
Right? They are wise, right? Because what is wisdom but applied knowledge? Right? And if I learned that this world is unsafe and that I am not worthy of respect or not worthy of being taken care of, then I will apply that to how I conduct myself in this world. Right? So one of my hopes is just to come along and just to be like the one person saying, hey, you have value regardless of what your house looks like or regardless of the community or regardless of what has happened to you or regardless of what you have done. I firm believer in redemption as well. Right?
Sheesh.
Yeah, man.
Sheesh. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's our approach.
Man, I it's one of those days. Man, I mean, I applaud you for your work, for the passion that you put into what you do, not just by what you do, but living it each and every day, and being a part of your every waking being. I could tell just talking to you, in the conversation we've had off camera, that this is an ongoing journey for you.
Yes,
and every time we meet, there'll probably be something new you can enlighten me on throughout your journey. With that being said, I want to give you some time to look right into that camera. Let the people know what you got going on. Let them know where they can find you, follow you, or support any of the things that you are going to be doing.
Absolutely. So we have a few initiatives coming up. We're 2 weeks shy of Juneteenth. On June 21st in Lincoln Park in Jersey City, we're having our Juneteenth celebration. I'm inviting you guys as well from 12.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
From 12 to 6. We have a community cleanup, BMU. We're cleaning up a few different neighborhoods from now to September. That is every other Sunday. The information for that is on our Instagram at Build More Unity. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Tap in.
Good, man. I love it. We'll definitely be there. I know we got an event on the 19th, the 20th, and we'll definitely be hitting you guys up as well, man. We'll be outside. Busy. We'll be outside. Well, yeah, we're busy for this Juneteenth this year. Last year I was inside. This year we being all the way outside.
We outside.
So
NAACP hit me up too to film and photo. Bam.
I'm done. This kid's getting too big for me.
I had to add
this kid's too big. This kid's getting too big for me at this point. Shameless plug. But no, I mean, it just goes to show the beauty of supporting enriching youth. Like I said, I'm only gonna be able to hold on AJ for so long at this point.
I ain't gonna. I'm here until
till a 7 zeros.
Yeah,
let's go. Let's go. So, but that just means greatness and building, giving the people what they want. E, we definitely appreciate you coming on the show, man. Super enlightening conversation. Really love just hearing some of the standpoints in which you view the work that you do. Your journey is extremely inspiring, and I hope that it inspires some people, youth out there. So again, we thank you for coming on the show. AJ, we're breaking it down, man. Tell people something.
Hey, look. Once again, if you're listening, just chill, relax, be present. Understand your situation, right? It's not always going to be hard. Pain is temporary. Simple as that.
You heard it here, folks.
Bada bing,
be present.
Boom.
Enjoy your life, and see where this journey will take you. You're a lot stronger than where you think you are. And if you're tuned in this long, you already know what it is. We're going to ask you to like, subscribe, hit the bell to get the ding for the notifications. We are usually posting every Monday at 7 a.m. live premieres. We love for the people that tune in every morning. We appreciate y'all more than anything. So like, share, subscribe, share the word, leave a comment, tell a friend, anybody that you think could benefit from our show, or recommend anyone you would like to have on the show. We're trying to get a lot of interesting people that have amazing stories that are not getting the voice that they deserve. It's why we are here to make it loud, here to say it loud. Without further ado, I'm your host, Chris J. You know what it is. Nothing but love. Peace.